So we are reading the prayers of Queen Kunti, chapter number 8, text number 23. Yata Rishikesha Kalena Devaki Kamsena Rudakti Chiram Sucharpita Vimochitam Cha Satmaja Vibho Tvaya Iva Nathena Muhur Vipatjantaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivinoda Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna Malla Mataji. Hare Krishna Malla Mataji. Hare Krishna Anita Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Translation. O Rishikesha, master of the senses and lord of lords, you have released your mother Devaki, who was long imprisoned and distressed by the envious king Kamsa, and me and my children from a series of constant dangers. Purport. Devaki, the mother of Krishna and sister of King Kamsa, was put into prison along with her husband Vasudeva because the envious king was afraid of being killed by Devaki's eighth son Krishna. He killed all the sons of Devaki who were born before Krishna, but Krishna escaped the danger of child slaughter because he was transferred to the house of Nanda Maharaj, Lord Krishna's foster father. Kunti Devi, along with her children, was also saved from a series of dangers. But Kunti Devi was shown far more favor because Lord Krishna did not save the other children of Devaki, whereas he saved the children of Kunti Devi. This was done because Devaki's husband Vasudeva was living, whereas Kunti Devi was a widow, and there was none to help her except Krishna. The conclusion is that Krishna endows more favor to a devotee who is in great dangers. Sometimes he puts his pure devotees in such dangers because in that condition of helplessness, the devotee becomes more attached to the Lord. The more the attachment is there for the Lord, the more success is there for the devotee. Hare Krishna.
24. Visanmahagne Purushad Darshanat Asat Vanavasa Kruchare Mrude Aneka Maharatasato Drauni Astratas Chashma Hare Avirakshitaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivinoda Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna Sanjay Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Translation. My dear Krishna, your Lordship has protected us from a poisoned cake, from a great fire, from cannibals, from the vicious assembly, from sufferings during our exile in the forest, and from the battle where great generals fought. And now you have saved us from the weapon of Ashwathama. Purport. The list of dangerous encounters is submitted here. Devaki was once put into difficulty by her envious brother, otherwise she was well. But Kunti Devi and her sons were put into one difficulty after another for years and years together. They were put into trouble by Duryodhana and his party due to the kingdom, and each and every time the sons of Kunti were saved by the Lord. Once Bhima was administered poison in a cake. Once they were put into the house made of shellac and set afire, and once Draupadi was dragged out, and attempts were made to insult her by stripping her naked in the vicious assembly of the Kurus. The Lord saved Draupadi by supplying an immeasurable length of cloth, and Duryodhana's party failed to see her naked. Similarly, when they were exiled in the forest, Bhima had to fight with the man-eater demon Hidamba Rakshasa, but the Lord saved him. So it was not finished there. After all these tribulations, there was the great battle of Kurukshetra, and Arjuna had to meet such great generals as Drona, Bhishma, Karna, all powerful fighters. And at last, even when everything was done away with, there was the Brahmastra released by the son of Dronacharya to kill the child within the womb of Uttara. And so the Lord saved the only surviving descendant of the Kurus, Maharaj Parikshit. Hare Krishna.
25. विपदा सन्तुता सस्व तत्र तत्र जगद्गुरो भवतो दर्शनं यत् स्यात् अपनोर्भवं दर्शनम्. Translation and purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Abhishek Prabhu. You both can share the purpose.
Translation. I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths. Purport. Generally, the distressed, the needy, the intelligent, and the inquisitive who have performed some pious activities worship or begin to worship the Lord. Others who are striving on misdeeds only, regardless of status, cannot approach the Supreme due to being misled by the illusionary energy. Therefore, for a pious person, if there is some calamity, there is no other alternative than to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Constantly remembering the lotus feet of the Lord means preparing for liberation from birth and death. Therefore, even though there are so-called calamities, they are welcome because they give us an opportunity to remember the Lord, which means liberation.
One who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are accepted as the most suitable boat for crossing the ocean of nations, can achieve liberation as easily as one leaps over the holes made by the hoofs of a calf. Such persons are meant to reside in the abode of the Lord, and they have nothing to do with a place where there is danger in every step. This material world is certified by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita as a dangerous place full of calamities. Less intelligent persons prepare plans to adjust to those calamities without knowing that the nature of this place is itself full of calamities. They have no information of the abode of the Lord, which is full of bliss and without trace of calamity. The duty of the sane person, therefore, is to be undisturbed by the worldly calamities, which are sure to happen in all circumstances.
Suffering all sorts of unavoidable misfortunes, one should make progress in spiritual realization because that is the mission of human life. The spirit soul is transcendental to all material calamities. Therefore, the so-called calamities are called false. A man may see a tiger swallowing him in a dream and he may cry for his calamity. Actually, there is no tiger and there is no suffering. It is simply a case of dreams. In the same way, all calamities of life are said to be dreams. If someone is lucky enough to get in contact with the Lord by devotional service, it is all gain. Contact with the Lord by any one of the 9 devotional services is always a forward step on the path going back to Godhead. Hare Krishna.
26. जन्मैश्वर्य श्रुत श्रीवीर एधामना मदः पुमान् नैवार्हति अभिधातुं वै त्वाम् अकिंचन गोचरम्. Translation and purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Yogesh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. My Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable percentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feelings. Purport. Being materially advanced means taking birth in an aristocratic family and possessing great wealth and education and attractive personal beauty. All materialistic men are mad after possessing all these material opulences, and this is known as the advancement of material civilization. But the result is that by possessing all these material assets, one becomes artificially puffed up, intoxicated by such temporary possessions. Consequently, such materially puffed up persons are incapable of uttering the holy name of the Lord by addressing him feelingly, O Govinda, O Krishna. It is said in the Shastras that by one uttering the holy name of the Lord, the sinner gets rid of a quantity of sins that he is unable to commit. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Vanilla Mataji. Hare Krishna, Vanilla Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, you can complete that paragraph.
From where, sorry.
Yeah.
There is not the least exaggeration in this statement. Actually, the Lord's holy name has such powerful potency, but there is a quality to such utterances also. It depends on the quality of feeling. A helpless man can feelingly utter the holy name of the Lord, whereas a man who utters the same holy name in great material satisfaction cannot be so sincere. A materially puffed up person may utter the holy name of the Lord occasionally, but he is incapable of uttering the name in quality. Therefore, the four principles of material advancement, namely high parentage, good wealth, high education, and attractive beauty, are to speak disqualifications for the progress of the path of spiritual advancement. The material covering of the pure spirit soul is an external feature as much as fever is an external feature of an unhealthy body. The great process is to, the general process is to decrease the degree of fever and not to aggravate it by maltreatment. Sometimes it is seen that spiritually advanced persons become materially impoverished. This is no discouragement. On the other hand, such impoverishment is a good sign as much as the falling of temperature is a good sign. The principle of life should be to decrease the material intoxication, which leads one to more and more illusioned about the aim of life. Grossly illusioned persons are quite unfit for entrance into kingdom of God. Hare Krishna.
27. नमो अकिञ्चन कृष्णाय निवृत गुणवृत्तये आत्मारामाय शान्ताय कैवल्यपतये नमः. Translation purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Sagar Prabhuji, can you read?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. My questions are unto you, who are the property of material impoverished. You have nothing to do with the acts and reactions of the material modes of nature. You are self-satisfied, and therefore you are the most gentle and are master of monish purpose. A living being is finished as soon as there is nothing to possess. A living being cannot become a renouncer. A living being renounces something, gaining something more valuable. A student sacrifices child proclivities to gain better knowledge education. A servant gives up his job for a better job. Similarly, a poet renounces the material world not for nothing, but for something tangible and spiritual value. Sanatana gave up worldly for the sake of the Lord. They were big men in the worldly sense. Goswami was service of men. And Srila Goswami was the son of a big builder of his time. But they left everything to gain something superior to what they previously possessed. The devotees are generally without material prosperity, but they have a very secret treasure house in the lotus feet of the Lord. Can you please continue?
We will continue with other devotee. Hare Krishna, Saban Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. There is a nice story about Srila Sanatana Goswami. He had a touchstone, and this stone was left in a pile of refuse. A needy man took it, but later on wondered why the valuable stone was kept in such a neglected place. He therefore asked Sanatana for the most valuable thing, and then he was given the holy name of the Lord. Akinchana means one who has nothing to give mentally. A factual devotee or Mahatma does not give anything material to anyone because he has already left all material assets. He can, however, deliver the supreme asset, namely the personality of Godhead, because he is the only property of a factual devotee. The touchstone of Sanatana Goswami, which was thrown in the rubbish, was not the property of the Goswami. Otherwise, it would not have been kept in such a place. This specific example is given for the neophyte devotees just to convince them that material hankerings and spiritual advancement go ill together. Unless one is able to see everything as spiritual in relation with the Supreme Lord, one must always distinguish between spirit and matter. A spiritual master like Srila Sanatana Goswami, although personally able to see everything as spiritual, set this example for us only because we have no such spiritual vision. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Rita Mataji. Hare Krishna, Rita Mataji. Okay. Hare Krishna, Abhishek Prabhu.
Advancement of material vision or material civilization is a great stumbling block for spiritual advancement. Such material advancement entangles the living being in the bondage of a material body, followed by all sorts of material miseries. Such material advancement is called anartha or things not wanted. Actually, this is so. In the present context of material advancement, one uses lipstick at the cost of 50 cents, and there are so many unwanted things which are all products of the material conception of life. By diverting attention to so many unwanted things, human energy is spoiled without achievement of spiritual realization, the prime necessity of human life. The attempt to reach the moon is another example of spoiling energy, because even if the moon is reached, the problems of life will not be solved. The devotees of the Lord are called akinchanas because they have practically no material assets. Such material assets are all products of the three modes of material nature. They spoil spiritual energy, and thus the less we possess such products of material nature, the more we have a good chance of spiritual progress.
Hare Krishna, Rita Mataji. You can continue.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no direct connection with material activities. All his acts and deeds, which are exhibited even in this material world, are spiritual and without affection for the modes of material nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that all his acts, even his appearance and disappearance in and out of the material world, are transcendental. And one who knows this perfectly shall not take his birth again in this material world, but will go back to Godhead. The material disease is due to hankering after and lording it over material nature. This hankering is due to an interaction of three modes of nature, and neither the Lord nor the devotees have attachment for such false enjoyment. Therefore, the Lord and the devotees are called Nivritta Guna Vritti. The perfect Nivritta Guna Vritti is the Supreme Lord because he never becomes attracted by the modes of material nature, whereas the living beings have such a tendency. Some of them are entrapped by the illusionary attraction of material nature.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Abhishek Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Abhishek Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Yeah.
So Sarasija will continue.
Well,
Because the Lord is the property of the devotees and the devotees are the property of the Lord reciprocally, the devotees are certainly transcendental to the modes of material nature. That is a natural conclusion. Such unalloyed devotees are distinct from the mixed devotees who approach the Lord for mitigation of miseries and poverty or because of inquisitiveness and speculation. The unalloyed devotees and the Lord are transcendentally attached to one another. For others, the Lord has nothing to reciprocate, and therefore he is called Atma Rama, self-satisfied. Self-satisfied as he is the master of all monists who seek to merge into the existence of the Lord. Such monists merge within the personal effulgence of the Lord called Brahma Jyoti. But the devotees enter into the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, which are never to be misunderstood as material.
28. Manye tvam kalam ishanam anadi nidanam vibhum samam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yan vitah kali. Translation and purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivinoda Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Sanjay Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Translation. My Lord, I consider your Lordship to be eternal time, the supreme controller without beginning and end, the all-pervasive one. In distributing your mercy, you are equal to everyone. The dissensions between living beings are due to social intercourse. Purport. Kunti Devi knew that Krishna was neither her nephew nor an ordinary family member of her parental house. She knew perfectly well that Krishna is the primeval Lord who lives in everyone's heart as a super soul, Paramatma. Another name of the Paramatma feature of the Lord is Kala or eternal time. Eternal time is the witness of all our actions, good and bad, and thus resultant reactions are destined by Him. It is no use saying that we do not know why and for what we are suffering. We may forget the misdeeds for which we may suffer at this present moment, but we must remember that Paramatma is our constant companion and therefore He knows everything past, present, and future. And because the Paramatma feature of Lord Krishna destines all actions and reactions, He is the supreme controller also. Without his sanction, not a blade of grass can move. The living beings are given as much freedom as they deserve, and misuse of that freedom is the cause of suffering. The devotees of the Lord do not misuse their freedom, and therefore they are the good sons of the Lord. Others who misuse freedom are put into miseries destined by the eternal Kala. The Kala offers the conditioned souls both happiness and miseries. It is all predestined by eternal time. As we have miseries uncalled for, so we have so we may have happiness also without being asked, for they are all predestined by Kala. No one is therefore either an enemy or friend of the Lord. Everyone is suffering and enjoying the result of his own destiny. This destiny is made by the living beings in course of social intercourse. Everyone here wants to lord it over the material nature, and thus everyone creates his own destiny under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. He is all pervading, and therefore he can see everyone's activities. And because the Lord has no beginning or end, he is known also as the eternal time, Kala. Hare Krishna.
29. Aveda kaschit bhagavan chikirsitam tavehamhansya nrinam vidambanam na yasya kaschit dayito asti karhichit dveshyascha yasmin vishama matir nrinam. Translation purport by Divine Grace Bhaktivinoda Sridhar Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna Yogesh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Translation. O Lord, no one can understand your transcendental pastimes, which appear to be human and so are misleading. You have no specific object of favor, nor do you have any object of envy. People only imagine that you are partial. Purport. The Lord's mercy upon the fallen souls is equally distributed. He has no one as the specific object of hostility. The very conception of the personality of Godhead as a human being is misleading. His pastimes appear to be exactly like the human beings, but actually they are transcendental and without any tinge of material contamination. He is undoubtedly known as partial to his pure devotees, but in fact he is never partial, as much as the sun is never partial to anyone. By utilizing the sun rays, sometimes even the stones become valuable, whereas a blind man cannot see the sun, although there are enough sun rays before him. Darkness and light are two opposite conceptions, but this does not mean that the sun is partial in distributing its rays. The sun rays are open to everyone, but the capacities of the respectacles uh, receptacles differ. Foolish people think that devotional service is flattering the Lord to get special mercy. Factually, the pure devotees who are engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord are not from mercantile community. A mercantile house renders service to someone in exchange for values. The pure devotee does not render service unto the Lord for such exchange, and therefore the full mercy of the Lord is open for him. Suffering man, needy man, inquisitive person, or philosophers make temporary connections with the Lord to serve a particular purpose. When the purpose is served, there is no more relation with the Lord. A suffering man, if he is pious at all, prays to the Lord for his recovery. But as soon as the recovery is over, in most cases, the suffering man no longer cares to keep any connection with the Lord. The mercy of the Lord is open for him, but he is reluctant to receive it. That is the difference between a pure devotee and a mixed devotee. Those who are completely against the service of the Lord are considered to be in abject darkness. Those who ask for the Lord's favor only at the time of necessity are partial recipients of the mercy of the Lord. And those who are the 100% engaged in the service of the Lord are full recipients of the mercy of the Lord. Such partiality in receiving the Lord's mercy is relative to the recipient, and it's not due to the partiality of the all merciful Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Sagar Prabhu. Hare Krishna Sagar Prabhu. Hare Krishna Savan Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. When the Lord descends to this material world by his all-merciful energy, he plays like a human being, and therefore it appears that Lord is partial to his devotees only. But that is not a fact. Despite such apparent manifestation of partiality, his mercy is equally distributed. In the battlefield of Kurukshetra, all persons who died in the fight before the presence of the Lord got salvation without necessary qualifications, because death before the presence of Lord purifies the passing soul from the effects of all sins, and therefore the dying man gets a place somewhere in transcendental abode. Somehow or the other, if someone puts himself open in the sun rays, he is sure to get the requisite benefit both by heat and by ultraviolet rays. Therefore, the conclusion is that Lord is never partial. It is wrong for the people in general to think of him as partial. Hare Krishna.
30. Janma karma cha viswatman ajayashakratur atmanah tiryan rishisho yadasu atyanta vidambanam. Translation and purport by Jivan Ray Jesi Bhajan Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna Milla Mataji.
Hare Krishna. From translation.
Yes.
Translation. Of course, it is bewildering. O soul of universe, that you work, though you are inactive, and that you take birth, though you are the vital force and the unborn. You yourself descend amongst animals, men, sages, and aquatics. Verily, this is bewildering. Purport. The transcendental pastimes of the Lord are not only bewildering but also apparently contradictory. In other words, they are all inconceivable to the limited thinking power of the human being. The Lord is all-pervading super soul of all existence, and yet he appears in the form of a boar amongst the animals, in the form of a human being as Rama, Krishna, etc., in the form of Rishi like Narayana, and in the form of aquatic like a fish. Yet it is said that he is unborn and he has nothing to do. In the Shruti mantra, it is said that the Supreme Brahman has nothing to do. No one is equal to or greater than him. He has manifold energies and everything is performed by him perfectly by automatic knowledge, strength, and activity. All these statements prove without any question that the Lord's activities, forms, and deeds are all inconceivable to our limited thinking power, and because he is inconceivably powerful, everything is possible in him. Therefore, no one can calculate him exactly. Every action of the Lord is bewildering to the common man. He cannot be understood by Vedic knowledge. He can be easily understood by pure devotees because they are intimately related to him. Devotees therefore know that he appears among the animals. He is not an animal. Although he appears among the animals, he is not an animal. nor a man, nor a rishi, nor a fish. He is eternally the Supreme Lord in all circumstances. Hare Krishna.
31. गोपी आददे त्वयि कृतागसि धाम त्वतावत् याते दशरथसु कलिग्न सम्भ्रमाक्षं वक्त्रं निनीय भयभावान्य स्थितस्य सा मां विमोहयति वीरपि यत् बिभेति. Translation and purpose by Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Saraswati Mata.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
My dear Krishna, Yashoda took up a rope to bind you when you committed an offense, and your perturbed eyes overflooded with tears, which washed the mascara from your eyes, and you were afraid, though fear personified in afraid of you. This sight is bewildering to me. Purport. Here is another explanation of the bewilderment created by the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the supreme in all circumstances, as already explained. Here is a specific example of Lord being the supreme and at the same time a plaything in the presence of his pure devotee. The Lord's pure devotee renders service unto the Lord out of unalloyed love only, and while discharging such devotional service, the pure devotee forgets the position of the Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord also accepts the loving service of his devotees more relishably when the service is rendered spontaneously out of pure affection without anything of reverential admiration. Generally, the Lord is worshipped by the devotees in a reverential attitude, but the Lord is meticulously pleased when the devotee, out of pure affection and love, considers the Lord to be less important than himself. The Lord's pastime in the original abode of Goloka Vrindavan are exchanged in that spirit. The friends of Krishna consider him one of them. They do not consider him to be of reverential importance. The parents of the Lord, who are all pure devotees, consider him a child only. The Lord accepts the chastisements of the parents more cheerfully than the prayers of the Vedic hymns. Similarly, he accepts the reproaches of his fiancés more palatably than the Vedic hymns. When Lord Krishna was present in this material world to manifest his eternal pastime of the transcendental realm of Goloka Vrindavan as an attraction to the people in general, he displayed a unique picture of subordination before his foster mother Yashoda.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Anita Mataji. Saraswati Mataji, can you read?
Should I continue or Anita Mataji
Yeah,
can continue?
we will continue with other devotees.
Okay. Right.
Hare Krishna. Anita Mataji, you can continue.
Hare Krishna. The Lord, in his naturally childish, playful activities, used to spoil the stocked butter of Mother Yashoda by breaking the pots and distributing the contents to his friends and playmates, including the celebrated monkeys of Vrindavan, who took the advantage of Lord's munificence. Mother Yashoda saw this, and out of her pure love, she wanted to make a show of punishment for her transcendental child. She took a rope and threatened the Lord that she would tie him up as is generally done in the ordinary household. Seeing the rope in the hands of Mother Yashoda, the Lord bowed down his head and began to weep just like a child, and tears rolled down his cheeks, washing off the black ointment smeared about his beautiful eyes. This picture of the Lord is adorned by the Kunti Devi because she is conscious of the Lord's supreme position. He is feared often by fear personified, yet he is afraid of his mother, who wanted to punish him just in an ordinary manner. Kunti was conscious of the exalted position of the Krishna, whereas Yashoda was not. Therefore, Yashoda's position was more exalted than Kunti's. Mother Yashoda got the Lord as her child, and the Lord made her forget altogether that her child was the Lord himself. If Mother Yashoda had been conscious of the exalted position of the Lord, she would certainly have hesitated to punish the Lord. But she has made to forget this situation because the Lord wanted to make a complete gesture of childishness before the affectionate Yashoda. This exchange of love between the mother and the son was performed in a natural way, and Kunti, remembering the scene, was bewildered and she could do nothing but praise the transcendental filial love. Indirectly, Mother Yashoda is praised for her unique position of love, for she could control even the all powerful Lord as a beloved child. Hare Krishna.
32. केचिद् आहुरजं जातं पुण्यश्लोकस्य कीर्तये यथोप्रियस्यन्वयाये मलयस्येव चन्दनम्. Translation purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivinoda Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Yogesh Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Some translation. Some say that unborn is born for the glorification of pious kings, and others say that he is born to please King Yadu, one of your dearest devotees. You appear in this family as sandalwood appears in Malaya hills. Purport. Because the Lord's appearance in this material world is bewildering, there are different opinions about the birth of unborn. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that he takes his birth in the material world, although he is the Lord of all creations and he is unborn. So there cannot be any denial of birth of unborn because he himself establishes the truth. But still there are different opinions as to why he takes birth. That is also declared in Bhagavad Gita. He appears by his own internal potency to re-establish the principles of religion and to protect the pious and to annihilate the impious. That is the mission of appearance of the unborn. Still, it is said that the Lord is there to glorify the pious King Yudhishthira. Lord Sri Krishna certainly wanted to establish the kingdom of the Pandavas for the good of all in the world. When there is a pious king ruling over the world, people are happy. When the ruler is impious, the people are unhappy. In the age of Kali, in most cases, the rulers are impious and therefore the citizens are also continuously unhappy. But in case of democracy, the impious citizens therefore elect their representative to rule over them, and therefore they cannot blame anyone for their unhappiness. Maharaja Nala was also celebrated as a great pious king, but he had no connection with Lord Krishna. Therefore, Maharaja Yudhishthira is meant here to be glorified by Lord Krishna. The Lord had already glorified King Yadu, having taken birth in his family. Although he is known as Yadava, Yaduvira, Yadunandana, etc., he is always independent of such obligation. He is just like the sandalwood that grows in Malaya hills. Trees can grow anywhere and everywhere, but yet because the sandalwood trees grow mostly in the area of Malaya hills, the name sandalwood and the Malaya hills are interrelated. Therefore, the conclusion is that the Lord is ever unborn like the sun, and yet he appears as the sun rises on the eastern horizon. As the sun is never the sun of the eastern horizon, so the Lord is no one's son, but he is further the father of everything that be. Hare Krishna.
33. अपरे वसुदेवस्य देवक्यं याचितो अभ्यघत् रजस्त्वम् अस्य क्षेमाय वधाय च सुरद्विषाम्. Translation purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivinoda Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna Venla Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Translation. Others say that since both Vasudeva and Devaki prayed for you, you have taken your birth as their son. Undoubtedly, you are unborn. Yet you take your birth for their welfare and to kill those who are envious of demigods. Purport. It is also said that Vasudeva and Devaki in their previous birth as Sutapa and Prishni underwent a severe type of penance to get Lord as their son, the Lord as their son, and as a result of their austerities, the Lord appeared as their son. It is already declared in the Bhagavad Gita that Lord appears for the welfare of all people of the world and to vanquish asuras or the materialistic atheists. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Before पारवतारण्ये भुवो अनाव इवो दुधो सिद्धन्ति पुरिभारेण जातो हि आत्मभुवर्तितः. Translation purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivinoda Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna Abhishek Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Translation. Others say that the world, being overburdened like a boat at sea, is much aggrieved, and that Brahma, who is your son, prayed for you, and so you have appeared to diminish the trouble. Purport: Brahma, or the first living being born just after creation, is the direct son of Narayana. Narayana, as Garbhodaksha Vishnu, first of all entered the material universe. Without spiritual contact, matter cannot create. This principle was followed from the very beginning of the creation. The Supreme Spirit entered the universe, and the first living being, Brahma, was born on a lotus flower grown out of the transcendental abdomen of Vishnu. Vishnu is therefore known as Padmanabha. Brahma is known as Atma Bhu because he was begotten directly from the father without any contact of mother Lakshmiji. Lakshmiji was present near Narayana, engaged in the service of the Lord, and still without contact with Lakshmiji, Narayana begot Brahma. That is the omnipotency of the Lord. One who foolishly considers Narayana like other living beings should take a lesson from this. Narayana is not an ordinary living being. He is the personality of Godhead himself. And he has all the potencies of all senses in all parts of his transcendental body. An ordinary living being begets a child by sexual intercourse, and he has no other means to beget a child other than the one designated for him. But Narayana, being omnipotent, is not bound to any condition of energy. He is complete and independent to do anything and everything by his various potencies, very easily and perfectly. Brahma is therefore directly the son of the father and was not put into the womb of a mother. Therefore, he is known as Atma Bhu. This Brahma is in charge of further creations in the universe, secondarily reflected by the potency of the omnipotent. Within the halo of the universe, there is a transcendental planet known as Shweta Dvipa, which is the abode of the Kshirodaksha Vishnu, the Paramatma feature of the Supreme Lord. Whenever there is trouble in the universe that cannot be solved by the administrative demigods, they approach Brahmaji for a solution. And if it is not to be solved even by Brahmaji, then Brahmaji consults and prays to Kshirodaksha Vishnu for an incarnation and solution to the problems. Such a problem arose when Kamsa and others were ruling over the earth, and the earth became too much overburdened by the misdeeds of the Asuras. Brahmaji, along with other demigods, prayed at the shore of the Kshirodaka ocean, and they were advised of the descent of Krishna as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. So some people say that the Lord appeared because of the prayers of Brahmaji. Hare Krishna.
35. Bhave asmin klishyamananam avidya kama karmavi Sravana smarana harahani karishyan iti kechana. Translation purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivinoda Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Anita Mataji.
Hare
Okay.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
And yet others say that you are appeared to regenerate the devotional service of hearing, remembering, worshipping, and so on, in order that the conditioned souls suffering from material pangs might take advantage and gain liberation. Purport. In the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Lord asserts that he appears in every millennium just to re-establish the way of religion. The way of religion is made by the Supreme Lord. No one can manufacture a new path of religion, as is the fashion for certain ambitious persons. The factual way of religion is to accept the Lord as the supreme authority and thus render service unto him in spontaneous love. A living being cannot help but render service because he is constitutionally made for that purpose. The only function of the living being is to render service to the Lord. The Lord is great and living beings are subordinate to him. Therefore, the duty of the living beings is just to serve him only. Unfortunately, the illusioned living beings, out of misunderstanding only, become servants of the senses by material desire. This desire is called avidya or nescience. And out of such desire, the living being makes different plans for material enjoyment centered about a perverted sex life. He therefore becomes entangled in the chain of birth and death by transmigrating into different bodies on different planets under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Unless, therefore, one is beyond the boundary of this nescience, one cannot get free from the threefold miseries of material life. That is the law of nature. The Lord, however, out of his causeless mercy, because he is more merciful to the suffering living beings than they can expect, appears before them and renovates the principles of devotional service comprised of hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping, praying, cooperating, and surrendering unto him. Adoption of the all above mentioned items or any one of them can help a conditioned soul get out of the tangle of nescience and thus become liberated from all material sufferings created by the living beings, illusioned by the external energy. This particular type of mercy is bestowed upon the living being by the Lord in the form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. It's already 8:15. Thank you everyone for joining today's session. वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। Thank you Vanilla Mataji.
Thank you.
Thank you Anita Mataji. Thank you Sagar Prabhu. Thank you Sapan Prabhu. Thank you Sheila Mataji, Saraswati Mataji, and Abhishek Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna. We'll meet again on next Tuesday. Hare Krishna.